The promise on the playground. The sky above the alien planet looked like a deep ocean filled with slow-moving lights. Human explorer Leo stood near the tall silver trees, watching the leaves shift colors with every small breeze. His boots pressed into the soft blue grass as he walked toward the open learning ground where alien children gathered every cycle. He had been assigned to this peaceful world as part of a long diplomatic exchange. His job was to observe, to study, and to keep friendly contact with the natives. But over time, something unexpected happened. The children liked him, and one of them liked him more than the rest. Her name was Nara. She was not like the other children. She was curious in a strange way. She asked about human food, human games, and even human feelings. She followed Leo whenever he visited. She walked beside him and held small pieces of stone she called memory rocks. She smiled with eyes that held a bright glow, and when she laughed, it echoed like tiny bells. Leo never thought much of it. To him, she was just a child who found joy in learning. He answered her questions and even made her a wooden charm shaped like a star. She wore it every time they met. One quiet day, they sat near a pond where the water shimmered with moving colors. Nara was holding her memory rocks in both hands. She looked at Leo and asked with a tilted head, "Do humans marry those they like?" Leo laughed, not in a cruel way, but with light humor. "Yes, sometimes they do." Nara nodded once and smiled without blinking. "Then I will marry you when I grow up." Leo's smile faded just for a second. He looked at her face, at the soft innocence in her voice, and the way she believed every word she said. He shook his head slowly, but kept his tone light. "When you grow up, you'll find someone your own kind. I'm just a visitor here." But Nara did not let go. "No, I choose you. And I will find you when I'm grown." Leo chuckled and looked at the sky above. "All right then. When you're all grown up, come find me. We'll talk about marriage then." She held her memory rocks tighter. "I will remember." He did not think twice about it. She was a child, playful and full of stories. The promise was just a way to keep the moment light and kind. After all, how could a child carry such words for more than a day? But seasons passed. Leo's mission ended. He gave Nara one final wave and handed her a polished stone from Earth before stepping into the ship that would take him far away. She waved back, holding the stone to her chest. He never saw her again. At least not in that cycle of life. Years rolled on like old pages turning in a forgotten book. Leo moved across different stars, different jobs, different stations. His face grew sharper with time, and his smile became harder to find. The galaxy was not always friendly. Peace was a fragile thing, and people like Leo had to carry it like a flame that must not go out. Still, in some quiet corners of his mind, he would remember that small alien girl with the glowing eyes and memory rocks. Not often, just sometimes. Mostly when he saw something from that world, its tree samples, its glowing stones, or the old star-shaped charm he once carved. He kept it in a drawer, not because it mattered, but because it reminded him of a time when things were simpler now. The world he once visited was a strong part of the growing alliance between human and non-human worlds. They were peaceful but proud. They had sent envoys and messages across sectors, and yet Leo had never returned. There had been no reason to until now, but this part of the story is not about return. It is about a promise made without weight. A joke told under a sky filled with slow-moving stars. A day when a human and an alien child shared a moment that meant two very different things to each of them. For Leo, it was just kindness. For Nara, it was a vow the blue grass that once brushed against Leo's boots still grows. The silver trees still change color with every breeze. And somewhere in the heart of that world, a memory rock still carries the warmth of a promise never truly forgotten. The stars above do not rush. They wait. They turn slowly. And so does fate, because some promises do not fade with time. Some promises return, with a surprise, a promise forgotten. The space station above the human colony turned slowly in the quiet dark. Its lights blinked like calm signals in the black sky. Inside the station, Leo walked through long halls with metal walls and soft white lights. His uniform was clean, marked with signs of peacekeeping duty. His boots made soft sounds as he moved from room to room. This place was home now. Not a real home, but close enough years had passed since the mission on the alien world. Leo had served in many zones since then. He had spoken with leaders, walked on ice planets, seen war clouds gather and fade. But through it all, he worked. For peace. He believed in it more than anything else. Peace needed strong hands to protect it. Leo had become one of those hands. He no longer smiled the way he used to. His face had lines now, not sharp but deep enough to show time. His eyes had seen beauty, fire, sorrow. He never talked about the past, not the missions, not the alien child, not the promise he had almost forgotten. One morning, a soft alarm called him to the council chamber. He walked in without asking why. Inside, other officers stood near the wide screen that showed ships coming and going. A quiet voice greeted him. "You are needed for something important." Leo looked up at the screen. A large vessel had just entered orbit. It had strange markings on the side, smooth lines, symbols from a world he had not seen in a long time. He felt something stir in his chest but did not show it. The officer beside him spoke again. "A high delegation has arrived from the Aurelian world. They have asked for you by name. They said only you must receive them." Leo blinked once but gave no reaction. "Why me?" the officer shrugged. "We do not know. But they insist. Their leader said you would understand." Leo stepped back and nodded once. Orders were orders. He made his way to the meeting deck. His steps were steady, but his thoughts ran fast. Why now? Why after so long? Why him? The arrival gate opened with a soft sound. From the shining corridor walked a group of Aurelians, tall, calm, dressed in soft robes of sky color and moonlight silver. Their eyes glowed with the same strange warmth. He remembered from the past, and in the center of the group walked a woman, not a child, a woman. She moved with grace and strength. Her skin held the same soft shimmer. Her eyes were bright, but no longer playful. They were focused, calm, deep. She walked like one who had grown with purpose. Leo froze. The woman stopped a few steps away from him. She tilted her head just slightly. Her voice came like soft wind across water. "You remembered me?" Leo stared. He wanted to say no. He wanted to ask her name, but he knew. Somehow he knew. "Nara," she smiled. Not wide, not small. Just enough to show she knew he would remember. Leo felt a wave of old memory rush through him. The pond, the stones, the promise. A child's voice saying she would find him. He had laughed then. He had left. And now here she was. "I came to speak about the Alliance," she said, her eyes steady. "But more than that, I came to speak with you." Leo glanced at the others. They stood silent behind her, showing respect but not speaking. Nora stepped closer. Her voice was quiet but clear. "You once made a vow. You may not have meant it, but I remembered. My people remembered. Such words are not small in our belief. A promise from the heart lives until it is fulfilled or broken." Leo felt the weight of her words settle over him like a heavy coat. He opened his mouth but could not find the right answer. She held out her hand. In her palm sat a smooth stone. The same earthstone he had given her long ago. Still polished. Still warm with meaning. "I did not come for a joke," she said. "I came to ask if the man I waited for still lives inside you." Leo looked down at the stone. So small, so quiet. But inside it held years, feelings, hope. He looked back at her. "I don't know what to say." "You do not have to say anything now," she replied. "Only listen." She turned to the officers behind him and nodded. I will speak in private with him. No guards, no watchers. Leo led her to a quiet room away from the halls. A place with soft chairs and a view of the stars. They sat without speaking at first, just watching the moving sky. After a while, Nara spoke. Again, my people want more than treaties. They want trust. They want ties that are real. And I believe the bond between us can be one of them. Leo turned toward her slowly. You're here to marry for politics? No, she said without pause. I'm here because I believed in you. I believed in what you stood for. As a child, I saw peace in your eyes. As a woman, I still do. Politics is only a door. But the reason I stepped through it is you. Leo closed his eyes for a moment. The past was no longer behind him. It was standing right in front of him, holding the same stone he once gave away without thought. Maybe the promise was never really forgotten. Maybe it was waiting. She remembered the stars outside the wide window moved like slow dancers. Inside the quiet room, Leo sat with his hands locked together. His eyes stayed on the stone in Nara's hand. That small gift from years ago now felt like a thread connecting two lifetimes. He never thought a simple moment could return in such a strong way. Nara sat across from him, calm and steady. Her eyes did not blink much. She was not nervous. She was not unsure. Her voice carried no fear when she began to speak again. You were kind to me when I was small. You answered my questions. You smiled when others looked away. And you made a promise. I held on to it because it gave me direction. When I was lonely, when I was lost, that promise became a path. Leo shifted in his seat. His voice came slow and quiet. I never meant to guide your life. I thought it was just a sweet moment. I thought you would forget. Nara looked down at the stone, then back at him. You forgot. I did not. And now I stand here as proof that some things do not fade with time. They only grow in silence. She placed the stone on the table between them. The surface of the table was cold and smooth, but the stone looked alive against it. Leo let out a breath through his nose and looked at her closely. She had the same glow, but her face now held experience. Her body moved with purpose. She was no longer a playful child. She had become a leader, a voice for her people. So what now? He asked, not in anger but in confusion. Nara folded her hands in her lap and sat still for a few seconds. My people are ready to make a stronger tie with yours. Not just trade. Not just aid. A true bond. A life thread. And we believe such a bond should begin with something real. Something pure. Something chosen with heart. Leo narrowed his eyes a little. You mean this promise? This marriage idea? She gave a soft nod. Yes, a vow that once began in laughter can end in unity. Not as a joke, not as a deal, but as a bridge. Leo stood and walked to the window. His hands touched the glass as if trying to reach through it. The stars stared back without sound. His voice came softer than before. You think I'm still the same man from back then? I do, she said. You think I can give you something real now? You already did once. You just didn't see it. He turned slowly to face her again. The room felt warmer now. The space between them seemed shorter. The air held something heavy but not dark. She stood and walked toward him. I did not come here only for the sake of our worlds. I came because I wanted to know. I wanted to see if the heart I once trusted still beat the same way. Leo looked into her eyes. No lie lived there. No trick, just truth. You're asking me to give up everything. I know, no, she said gently. I'm asking you to return to something you forgot. Something you once gave freely. He sat down again. His hands reached for the stone on the table. He held it for a long time without speaking. Memories came back. The pond, her voice, the charm he made. Her small hands holding memory rocks. The way she smiled when he said she could come find him someday. He never thought that day would arrive, but it had, and she had not come empty-handed. She had come with purpose, with faith. With love he looked up. What if this is too much for me, then? Say no, she replied without delay, but say it from truth, not fear. He looked at the stone once more, then handed it back to her. I don't know what to call this feeling, but it's real. She took the stone and placed it over her heart. That is enough for now. They stood in silence. A silence full of meaning. A silence that held years between them. Not a silence of distance, but of understanding. Then she turned and spoke once more. We will stay here for 7 cycles. My people will speak with yours. We will share stories. We will open our doors. And if after that time you still believe in what once was, then we will take the next step. Together, Leo nodded once. I can agree to that. Nara walked to the door. Before leaving, she looked back. You once said to find you when I was grown. I did. Now it is your turn to decide whether you will meet me as the man I believed you could become. She left the room without waiting for reply. Leo stood alone now. But not truly alone. The room still held her voice, her presence, her belief, and something inside him began to stir, not fernet, doubt, but hope, a strange kind of hope that grows from seeds planted in forgotten soil. He sat down again and looked at the chair where she had been. A promise had returned, and now it waited for his answer. Crossroads of duty and feeling. The days passed slow but full. Nara and her people stayed on the station. They met with human leaders. They shared their customs and listened to human stories. They walked through gardens under artificial light and sat in long halls made for peace talks. There were no loud voices, no arguments, but the air carried weight. The kind of weight that grows when something great is about to change. Leo stayed close to the meetings, but did not speak much. He watched from the side. He listened with quiet focus. His mind was a storm with no sound. Every word from Nara felt like a memory and a question. Every smile from her people reminded him of the blue grass and silver trees of her home world. He had not returned there, but her presence brought pieces of that world back to him. He could feel the eyes of others. Some officers did not hide their thoughts. Some asked soft questions. Others stayed silent but looked at him as if he now wore a strange light. He walked the station halls alone at night. No footsteps behind him. Just quiet air and soft hums from the machines that kept life moving. In his room, he kept the charm he once carved and the old file that recorded his first visit to Nara's world. He opened the file more than once. He read old words he had written, reports about peace, notes about culture. A line about a child who liked to ask questions. He smiled at that line. It had not aged. 7 cycles passed. On the 8th morning, Nara stood with him near the viewing deck. The stars still moved slow outside the glass. But something had changed in the way they watched. Nara spoke with calm voice. You still have not answered me. Leo kept his hands behind his back. I do not want to give an answer based on pressure. This decision is not small. It affects more than me. She nodded once. That is true. But do not forget it also affects me. He turned to her. I know you believe in this bond. I know you feel something real, but I must be honest. I still wonder if part of this is duty. A symbol, a step your people wish to take through us. Nara did not move away. She looked right at him. My people trust me. But they did not send me to offer myself as a gift. They sent me because I am free. Free to speak, free to choose, free to return with yes or no. They respect that choice. So should you. Leo took a breath. It was hard to measure what he felt. It was not love in the storybook sense. It was not politics either. It was something that lived between those two. Something born from memory and respect. There is something in me that wants to accept, he said. She stepped a little closer. What holds you back? He looked out the window again. The stars gave no answer. But his voice did. I fear losing who I was. I fear becoming someone new just to fulfill a promise I once made without full meaning. Nara touched the glass with her hand. Her voice turned softer. Every person becomes someone new, not because of promises, but because of time. Change is not a loss. It is a path. He turned and faced her fully. Then let me ask you this. If I say yes, if I walk with you into this bond, will I be walking as myself or as a shadow of what you once dreamed? She looked into his eyes. You will walk as both. A man who once gave hope, and a man who now gives choice. Leo felt his chest grow tight for a moment. The answer was not simple, but her words made space inside him. Outside the station, other ships began to arrive. Small ones, large ones. Leaders from other planets had come to witness the talks. Whispers of union had spread fast. Many eyes now looked to Leo and Nara, not as names, but as signs one mistake and peace could crack. One step forward and new bridges could rise. Leo stood in the meeting hall the next day. Beside him stood Nara. Their people sat in quiet rows. No guards, no weapons. Just words. The speaker from Earth asked the question, will this bond move forward? Nara looked at Leo. He looked back. No signal passed between them. No silent plan. Only understanding. Leo stepped forward. His voice filled the hall. I once made a promise with no plan to keep it. I saw it as a light moment, but that moment was remembered. Not with pressure, not with anger, but with belief. That belief stands in front of me now, not as a child, not as a symbol, but as a person, and I choose to honor her faith. Not just for alliance, not just for peace, but because I see something rare. I see a bond that began without knowing, but grew with time. He turned to Nara. If you still wish to walk beside me, I will walk beside you. She stepped forward and placed her hand in his. The hall stayed silent. Then, the sound of hands meeting hands began. A sign of agreement, a sign of respect. It grew louder with each second. No music played, but the air carried something strong. A rhythm of new trust. After the gathering ended, Leo stood alone with Nara once more, looked at her with softer eyes. Do you believe in me now? She smiled in her quiet way. I always did. I was just waiting for you to believe in yourself. Outside the station, the stars kept moving, but now they watched something new. A promise once made in passing, now standing tall, ready for what came next. The vow fulfilled. The great hall on the human colony was bright with soft lights and quiet colors. Rows of banners from different worlds hung from the ceiling. People from many planets stood together in peace. Their eyes looked toward the center where something rare was about to happen. A moment no war could destroy. A bond no treaty could match. This was not just about paper or deals. This was about promise. Leo stood tall in a dark blue robe made for this event. No medals, no titles. Just cloth woven with patterns from both Earth and Aurelian threads. A symbol of two lives meeting as one. His hands felt calm. His steps had no shake. For the first time in many years he felt light. Not because the weight was gone, but because someone had chosen to share it. Nara walked down the hall beside him. Her robe shimmered with light from her world's crystals. No crown, no guards, just her voice and her vow. The glow in her eyes held no pressure, only peace. She had come as she promised. Not as a child, not as a leader, but as herself. Together, they walked to the front where a quiet platform waited. A space where words would be shared in front of many. But more than words would be spoken here. History would shift. Not with fire, not with force, but with trust. The speaker raised a hand to quiet the room. All voices stopped. All movement paused. We gather not to make demands, the speaker said. We gather to witness a choice. A vow made once without plan, now returned with truth. Let the voices of these two speak freely. Let no voice rise above theirs. Let no fear stand between them. Leo stepped forward. He looked at Nara. His voice was steady, I was once a man who believed duty came first. That personal moments should not matter in the grand story of peace. But I learned something from you. That peace is not built only in meetings. It begins in small places, in soft words, in promises made when no one is watching. You remembered what I forgot. And now I choose to remember with you. Nara took one step forward. I was once a girl who held a stone in a dream. Not because I wished to escape my world, but because I saw something strong in yours. I waited not because I was forced. I waited because I believed. I do not offer myself to a flag or a throne. I offer myself to a man who once saw me when I was small and never looked away. And now I see him standing here still. They raised their hands and touched palms. A tradition from both their people. Not a handshake. Not a command. Just shared warmth. Skin to skin. Life to life, a quiet pulse moved through the crowd. No cheers. No loud praise. Just stillness full of meaning. Some held hands. Others closed eyes. All understood they were standing in the middle of a rare truth. The bond was sealed not with rings or vows alone, but with choice. Later that day, the leaders signed new paths of cooperation. New laws were shaped. Travel between their worlds would now be open. Shared schools would be built. Joint teams would protect peace in border regions. The work had just begun, but the start had come from something real. Not everyone smiled. Some questioned the speed. Some feared the change. But most saw what had happened and could not deny its strength. Leo and Nara did not hold power like kings or queens. Their power was different. It came from a moment remembered. A joke turned serious. A promise turned true. They returned to the Aurelian world after the ceremony. The planet welcomed them with songs and lights. Silver trees waved under soft winds. Children ran across the blue fields where Leo had once walked alone. Now he walked beside Nara. She showed him the pond again. The same place where she had first spoken the words that changed her life. The water still moved with shifting colors. The stone still lay near the edge. He bent down and picked up one smooth piece. It felt warm in his hand. You really kept them all these years, he said without asking. Yes, she replied, every single one. He smiled. A smile without weight, without doubt. Just quiet joy. They sat under the sky with no need for words. Time passed slow but kind. He looked at the star charm he once carved. She still wore it. It feels strange, he said. How something made in seconds can last for years. She looked at the charm, then at him, because it was made with heart. That night the stars moved above them with steady light. No storm. No rush. Just quiet truth. Leo slept for the first time in a long while with peace in his chest. Not because the galaxy had no danger. Not because life had no struggle. But because a part of him that once felt lost had returned, and beside him lay the reason. Not a symbol, not a strategy, but Nara, the girl who once asked with innocent hope, the woman who returned with steady faith, and the one who made him believe that promises do not end when forgotten. They only wait to be remembered and fulfilled. The end.